My child, stop scrolling for just a moment, because what you are about to hear did not reach you by accident. Something shifted only minutes ago, and the person you love felt it so deeply that they could no longer pretend everything was normal. Their heart has been trying to speak through silence, through distance, through every unfinished conversation, but tonight the feeling became too strong to ignore. They are not begging for your attention because they want to disturb your peace. They are reaching for you because something happened that made them realize how much could remain unsaid if they continue waiting. Stay here. Do not move away from this moment too quickly, because the truth unfolding around them is far more meaningful than it first appears. There was a moment, very recent and very quiet, when the person you love suddenly stopped what they were doing. The world around them continued as usual, but inside their heart, everything became still. A memory of you rose without warning. It was not a dramatic memory. It was something simple, something most people would overlook, the way you once listened, the way your presence made an ordinary moment feel safe, the way your eyes carried emotions you never fully explained. That small memory opened a door they had been keeping closed, and behind that door was every feeling they had tried to manage, hide, postpone, or understand alone. They had convinced themselves that they needed more time. They believed they could wait until the perfect moment, until they felt completely certain, until every fear disappeared. But only minutes ago, they understood something that changed the direction of their thoughts. Some truths do not become easier when delayed. Some feelings grow heavier in silence. Some connections do not leave the heart simply because the mind tries to place them somewhere distant. And your connection, my child, has never been ordinary to them. Do not skip what comes next, because the event itself was small, but its meaning was enormous. Someone near them mentioned a future plan. It may have been a conversation about travel, change, family, work, commitment, or the direction their life was taking. At first, they listened quietly. Then a simple question was asked: what do you truly want? Those words entered deeper than anyone in the room realized. The person you love tried to answer casually, but your image appeared in their mind before any other thought could form. They did not speak your name immediately. Their lips remained still, yet their heart answered with a clarity that frightened and comforted them at the same time. They saw you. They remembered you. They felt the invisible weight of everything they had not yet said to you. And in that instant, they realized that many of the choices they were considering would feel incomplete if you were not somehow part of the truth.
This does not mean their path has been simple. It does not mean they have never doubted, resisted, or become confused. They have carried responsibilities you may not know about. They have felt pressure to appear strong when they were uncertain. They have listened to advice from people who could not fully understand the depth of what they felt. They have questioned whether you would receive their heart gently or whether too much time had already passed. But the moment that happened minutes ago broke through one of their strongest defenses. Something inside them said, "You cannot keep hiding from what matters." That sentence did not come as a loud voice. It arrived as a deep knowing. It was the kind of knowing that makes the hands grow still and the heart beat differently. They looked around them, but no one else seemed to notice. Outwardly, everything remained ordinary. Inwardly, they were standing at the edge of a revelation. Pause here and let this reach you. The person you love has not forgotten the emotional details of your connection. They remember the things you assumed were unnoticed. They remember when you tried to appear fine even though your energy was tired. They remember a moment when you gave kindness without asking for recognition. They remember the space between your words, where your true feelings were often hiding. Most of all, they remember how different they felt when they knew you were near. That difference has followed them. They tried comparing it to other connections, other conversations, other possibilities. They told themselves they were simply being nostalgic. They attempted to move forward logically, hoping time would make the feeling smaller. But every comparison led them back to the same conclusion: what they felt with you carried a depth they could not easily recreate. Only minutes ago, this became undeniable. The person you love came across something connected to you. It may have been your name appearing unexpectedly, a photograph, a familiar song, a place, a phrase, or a message they once reread more times than you knew. Whatever form it took, it arrived at the exact moment their defenses were already weakened by that question about what they truly wanted. The timing felt impossible to ignore. They stared longer than they intended. Their breathing changed. The room around them faded into the background, and suddenly, they were not thinking about the past as something finished. They were thinking about what could still be changed. Stay till the end, because there is another layer to this that they have not yet fully understood. What happened was not merely a reminder of you. It awakened a decision they had been postponing. For some time, the person you love has been standing between two versions of themselves. One version chooses safety, silence, and emotional control. That version avoids difficult conversations and waits for certainty before taking any step. The other version is honest, vulnerable, and willing to risk being seen. That version wants to tell you what has been hidden. It wants to admit that your presence has mattered more than their actions may have shown. It wants to stop pretending that distance has erased what the heart still recognizes. Minutes ago, the second version became stronger. They began thinking about what they would say if you were standing in front of them. At first, their thoughts were scattered. Then one sentence became clear: I wish you knew why I became quiet. There is a reason for their silence, and it is not the simple reason you may have feared. They did not become quiet because your value diminished. They became quiet because the connection touched places inside them they were not prepared to explain. You awakened hope, but hope made them aware of what they could lose. You awakened tenderness, but tenderness made them feel unprotected. You awakened the possibility of something real, but real love requires honesty, and honesty was the very thing they had been avoiding within themselves. They knew that being close to you would eventually require them to stop hiding behind old patterns. They would need to speak clearly. They would need to release pride. They would need to admit where they had been wrong, where they had misunderstood you, and where fear had shaped their choices. For someone who had survived by keeping emotional control, this felt overwhelming. So they waited. But waiting did not bring peace. It only made your absence louder. There were nights when they nearly reached out. They formed words in their mind and then erased them before they ever reached you. They imagined your response. Sometimes they imagined warmth. Sometimes they imagined disappointment. Sometimes they feared you had stopped caring. But even when they forced themselves to focus elsewhere, a quiet question remained: what if they were waiting for honesty, not perfection? That question returned tonight with unusual force. My child, do not misunderstand what heaven is revealing. You are not being asked to chase, force, or abandon your dignity. You are being shown that what appears silent may still contain movement. The person you love is undergoing an inner reckoning. They are seeing the cost of remaining emotionally hidden, and for the first time in a long while, the cost of silence feels greater than the risk of truth. Something huge is waiting inside this revelation, but you must hear the next part carefully. They did not only think about contacting you. They began preparing to do it. Their hand moved toward their phone. Your name was searched, remembered, or brought to the front of their mind. They paused before opening the place where your connection still lives, in a message thread, a saved photo, a social page, or simply the private space of memory. Their heart beat faster because this was no longer an abstract thought. It was becoming an action. Then something unexpected happened. Before they could complete what they intended, another person entered the moment. Someone spoke to them, called them, or interrupted them with information that changed the emotional atmosphere. The person you love had to hide what they were feeling. They locked the screen, turned their face, or responded as though nothing unusual had happened. But inside, the decision continued growing. The interruption did not stop them. It made them realize how tired they were of hiding. For a brief second, they imagined living like this for months longer, always concealing their heart, always appearing unaffected, always wondering what might have happened if they had spoken. The thought filled them with a sadness they could no longer dismiss. They understood that the greatest regret might not come from receiving the wrong answer. It might come from never giving truth a chance. This is why they are begging you to open this message in the spiritual sense. Their soul is asking to be understood before their outer words arrive. They want you to know that beneath the silence, something has been changing. Beneath the hesitation, courage has been forming. Beneath the distance, an honest realization has been waiting for the right moment to emerge. And that moment may be closer than you think. There is another truth they have been afraid to face: they believed you could see through them. When you looked at them, they sometimes felt exposed, not because you judged them, but because you seemed to sense the emotions they had not named. Your presence made it harder for them to perform, pretend, or remain disconnected from their own heart. This is one reason they sometimes pulled away when the connection grew stronger. They were not always running from you. Sometimes they were running from the version of themselves that appeared when they were with you. With you, they felt softer. With you, they imagined possibilities they had dismissed. With you, they noticed how lonely they had been beneath their independence. You reminded them that being strong did not have to mean being unreachable. Yet that realization required a kind of surrender they were not ready to make. Until now. The event from minutes ago created a crack in the wall around them. Through that crack, they saw something important: you may not remain available forever. Not because you are cruel or impatient, but because your life is moving. Your heart is healing. Your strength is returning. Your energy is no longer standing still in the same place, waiting to be chosen. They sense this. Perhaps they have noticed a change in the way you carry yourself. Perhaps your silence feels different now. Perhaps the energy that once reached toward them has turned inward, becoming self-respect, purpose, and calm. They may not be able to explain it, but they feel that you are entering a new chapter. And suddenly, they are afraid, not of losing control, but of losing the chance to meet you honestly within that chapter. Do not skip, because what follows is the deepest part of the moment they just experienced. After the interruption ended, they returned to the thought of you. But this time, they did not immediately reach for their phone. Instead, they sat with the emotion. They allowed themselves to feel it without distraction. And within that quiet, they admitted something they had never fully admitted before. They missed who they were when they believed you might understand them. This realization shook them. They had spent so much time thinking they missed your voice, your presence, your attention, or your affection. But the deeper truth was that your connection gave them permission to become more sincere. Around you, they felt the possibility of being known beyond appearances. Losing closeness with you also meant losing contact with a part of themselves they had only begun to discover. Now they want that part back. But they know they cannot ask for it while repeating the same patterns. They cannot return with vague words and expect you to carry the emotional weight. They cannot offer fragments if your heart deserves clarity. They cannot appear only when loneliness becomes uncomfortable and disappear when vulnerability becomes real. This is why the message forming within them is different from previous attempts. They are not simply thinking, "I miss you." They are thinking, "I need to tell the truth about why I stayed away." That truth has several layers. One layer is fear. They feared rejection, but even more, they feared being accepted and then having to live up to the honesty your connection demanded. Another layer is timing. They believed certain areas of their life had to be settled before they could approach you. They wanted to arrive without confusion, yet the effort to become completely ready became another reason to delay. Another layer is outside influence. Someone close to them may have encouraged caution. That person may have misunderstood your bond or projected their own disappointments onto it. The person you love listened because they were already uncertain, but deep inside, the advice never fully matched what their heart knew. And the final layer is the most powerful. They did not believe they were worthy of being loved in the way you were capable of loving. This was the hidden wound beneath much of their behavior. They saw your sincerity. They saw your emotional depth. They saw that when you cared, you did not care halfway. And instead of feeling only grateful, part of them felt afraid. They wondered what would happen when you saw their flaws, their unfinished healing, their mistakes, and their contradictions. They feared that the more you knew, the less you would want them. So they tried to control how much you could see. But true connection cannot grow inside controlled fragments. Minutes ago, they understood this with painful clarity. They realized that by protecting themselves from the possibility of being rejected, they may have created the very distance they feared. They may have caused you to question feelings that were, in fact, real. They may have left you interpreting silence when honesty should have been given. This realization brought emotion into their eyes. They may not have cried openly. They may have quickly composed themselves. But their heart softened, and in that softness came remorse. Not shame meant to destroy them, but remorse meant to awaken them. They thought of a specific moment when you needed reassurance and they gave you uncertainty instead. They remembered when you asked something simple, and they answered around the truth. They remembered when your energy changed because you sensed them retreating. At the time, they told themselves it was necessary. Tonight, they saw how much that may have affected you. They whispered something under their breath. Your name may have been part of it. Or perhaps they simply said, I should have told them. My child, heaven is not revealing this so you will reopen every wound. It is being revealed so you understand that the story you saw from the outside was incomplete. You saw distance. You did not always see the conflict behind it. You saw hesitation. You did not see the nights they argued with themselves. You saw silence. You did not see the words that nearly reached you. But now, words are gathering again. The person you love has begun constructing a message in their mind. It does not begin with a dramatic declaration. It begins with accountability. They want to tell you that you deserved clearer communication. They want to explain that your intuition was not wrong. They want to acknowledge that something real existed, even when they acted uncertain. Then the message becomes more vulnerable. They want to tell you that they have compared every calm moment since your distance to the peace they felt near you. They want to admit that certain achievements felt strangely empty because you were not the person they could share them with. They want to confess that your absence has been present in rooms where no one knew your name. But there is one sentence they are still afraid to say. Stay till the end, because this sentence is connected to what happened just minutes ago. During that recent conversation, when someone asked what they truly wanted, another question followed. It was unexpected. It was direct. And it exposed the place in their heart they had been protecting. The question was not simply, who do you love? It was more personal than that. They were asked, who would you call if you knew they would answer without judging you? The room went quiet in their mind. Your face appeared immediately. They tried to think of someone else. A family member. A friend. Someone nearby. But the emotional answer remained the same. You were the person their heart associated with being understood. This realization was so strong that they could no longer treat you as a closed chapter. They may have smiled nervously. They may have changed the subject. They may have given a safe answer aloud. But inside, a different answer repeated itself. You. That single word carried memories, regret, hope, and longing all at once. And this is where the situation became extraordinary. After that conversation ended, they received a sign connected to something only the two of you would understand. It may have been a phrase you once used, a number linked to a meaningful date, a song that had followed your connection, or a symbol that appeared at the exact moment they were thinking of reaching out. They did not dismiss it. For once, they allowed themselves to wonder whether the timing meant something. They felt as though life was asking them, how many reminders will you need before you become honest? That question remained with them. They opened their phone again. This time, there was no interruption. They found the place where they could reach you, and their fingers began to move. The first words were imperfect. They erased them. The second attempt sounded too distant. They erased that too. Then they took a breath and wrote something closer to the truth. They wrote that something had happened and they needed to speak with you. They looked at the words for a long time. Their thumb hovered over the place that would send the message into your world. But they did not press it yet. Not because they changed their mind. Because at that exact moment, they saw something on your side, something they had not expected to see. It may have been a recent update, a photograph, a change in your status, a sign that you were moving forward, or an indication that someone else had entered the space they once assumed would remain open. Whatever it was, it caused their heart to drop. They stared at it, trying to understand. Suddenly, the urgency became greater. The person you love realized they may not have unlimited time to tell you what they feel. They realized the future they had been postponing might be changing without them. And for the first time, they felt the full consequence of waiting. Yet what they saw was not the entire truth. There was something they misunderstood. Something about that image, message, update, or sign was different from what it appeared to be. But they did not know that yet. All they knew was that the possibility of losing their chance had become real enough to break their silence. Their hands trembled slightly as they returned to the unfinished message. They added another sentence. Then another. Each line became more honest than the last. They admitted that they had been thinking of you. They admitted that recent events had forced them to face something. They admitted that they did not want to continue pretending the connection meant less than it did. But before sending it, they paused again, because there was one final truth they knew had to be included. This truth is the reason their soul is begging you to remain open, not unprotected, not desperate, but open enough to recognize sincerity when it finally arrives. They began typing the sentence they had feared for so long. The sentence was about the real reason they walked away. It was not because they stopped loving you. It was not because someone else replaced you. It was not because the connection was imagined. They walked away because of something they discovered about themselves shortly after your bond began to deepen, something they believed would eventually hurt you if they stayed close. They kept it hidden because they thought distance was a form of protection. But minutes ago, new information revealed that what they believed may never have been true. Someone had allowed them to carry a misunderstanding. Someone knew more than they admitted. And now the person you love has finally realized that the decision separating you may have been built on a secret that should have been revealed long ago. They are looking at the message right now, wondering how to tell you everything. And the name of the person who kept that truth hidden is the last name you would ever expect.